10th tablet. Synopsis of the 10th tablet. The mystery emissary appears to Enki in a dream vision. Enki is told to save mankind through his son Ziusudra by subterfuge. Enki directs Ziusudra to build a submarine. A navigator comes aboard, bringing Earth's seeds of life. Nibiru's approach causes the White Lens ice sheet to slip. The resulting tidal wave engulfs the Earth with water. The remaining Annunaki bewail the calamity. From Earth orbit the waters recede. Ziusudra's boat rests on Mount Salvation, descending in a whirlwind. Enlil discovers Enki's duplicity. Enki convinces Enlil it was destined by the creator of all. They use the surviving landing platform as a temporary base in a creation chamber. There, crops and cattle are fashioned. Abundant gold is discovered in the lands beyond the seas. New space facilities are established in the olden lands. They include 2 artificial mounds and a lion-shaped carving. Ninmah offers a peace plan to resolve erupting rivalries. Cattle and grains are granted to mankind. In Sippar, all the Annunaki gathered. The day of the deluge they awaited. It was at that time, as the tension of awaiting was mounting, that the Lord Enki, asleep in his quarters, had a dream vision. In the dream vision there appeared the image of a man, bright and shining, like the heavens, and as the man Enki approached, Enki saw that the white-haired Galzu he was. In his right hand an engraver's stylus he was holding, and in his left hand a tablet of lapis lazuli, shining smooth, he held. And as he approached near enough by Enki's bed to stand, Galzu spoke up and said, "Unwarranted your accusations against Enlil were, for only the truth he spoke, and the decision that as Enlil's decision will be known, not he but destiny decreed. Now into your hands fate take, for the earthlings the earth will inherit. Summon your son Ziusudra without breaking the oath. To him the coming calamity reveal. A boat that the watery avalanche can withstand, a submersible one to build. Him tell, the likes of which on this tablet to you I am showing. Let him in it save himself and his kinfolk, and the seed of all that is useful, be it plant or animal, also take. That is the will of the creator of all." And Galzu, in the dream vision, with the stylus on the tablet, an image drew, and placed the engraved tablet by the side of Enki's bed. And after that the image faded, the dream vision ended, and Enki with a shudder awoke. In his bed Enki for a while lying remained. With wonder the dream vision he pondered, what was thereof the meaning, what omen did it hold? Then as off his bed he stepped, lo and behold, there was the tablet. What in a mere dream vision he had seen now by his bedside materially was. With trembling hands the Lord Enki the tablet picked up, a design of a curious shaped boat. Upon the tablet he saw, by the tablet's edge, measuring markings there were, the boat's measures, indicating. Asked with awe and hope the Lord Enki by sunrise for his emissaries quickly sent, "Find the one called Galzu. To him I must speak." So to them he said. By sundown all came back to Enki, thus reporting, none Galzu to find was. Able Galzu, they said, to Nibiru did long ago return. Greatly baffled Enki was, the mystery and its omen to understand he strove. Unravel the mystery he could not, yet the message to him was clear. That night to the reed hut, where Ziusudra was sleeping, Enki stealthily went, the oath not breaking, the Lord Enki not to Ziusudra but to the hut's wall. Spoke, wake up to the reed wall, Enki was saying from behind the reed. Screen he was speaking. When Ziusudra by the words was awakened, to him Enki from behind the reed screen said, reed hut, to my words pay attention, to my instructions heed pay. On all the habitations over the cities, a calamitous storm will sweep, the destruction of mankind and its offspring it will be. This is the final ruling, the word of the assembly by Enlil convened. This is the decision by Anu and Enlil and Ninmah spoken. Now heed my words, observe the message that to you I am speaking. Abandon your house, build a boat, spurn possession, save the life. The boat that you must build, its design and measurements on a tablet are shown. By the reed hut's wall the tablet I shall leave. Make sure that the boat shall be roofed throughout. The sun from the inside must not be seen. The tackle must be very strong, the pitch strong and tight to ward off the water. Let the boat be one that can turn and tumble, the watery avalanche to survive. In 7 days build the boat. Into it your family and kinfolk gather. In the boat food and water for drinking. Heap up household animals also bring. Then on the appointed day a signal to you shall be given. A boat guide who knows the waters by me appointed to you that day will. Come on that day the boat you must enter. Its hatch tightly close you must. An overwhelming deluge coming from the south lands and life shall devastate your boat from its moorings. It shall lift the boat, it shall turn and tumble. Fear not, to a safe haven the boat guide will navigate you. By you shall the seed of civilized mankind survive. When Enki's voice fell silent, agog was Zisudra on his knees prostrate he. Fell, my lord, he shouted. Your voice I heard. Let me see your face. Not to you, Zisudra, have I spoken. To the reed wall did I speak. So Enki said, by Enlil's decision, by an oath upheld, am I bound to that all the Annunaki swore. If my face you shall see, surely like all earthlings you will die. Now read Hut, to my words pay heed. The purpose of the boat, a secret of the Annunaki, with you must remain. When the townspeople will inquire, to them you will so say, the Lord Enlil with my Lord Enki has angry been. To Enki's abode in the Abzu I am sailing, perchance Enlil will be appeased. For a while a silence followed. Zisudra from behind the reed wall came, a tablet of lapis lazuli in the moonlight shining. He saw and picked up the image of a boat. Upon it was drawn, notches its measurements gave. Wisest of civilized men was Zisudra. What he had heard he understood. In the morning to the townspeople he so announced, the Lord Enlil with the Lord Enki my master angry has been. On that account to me the Lord Enlil is hostile. In this city I no longer reside can, nor in the Eden my foot any more set. To the Abzu, the Lord Enki's domain, I will there a sailing go. In a boat that must quickly be built, I will away from here depart. Thereby the Lord Enlil's anger will subside. Hardships will end. Upon you the Lord Enlil abundance henceforth will shower. The morning was not yet gone when the people about Zisudra gathered to speedily for him. The boat build they each other encouraged. Timbers of boat wood the elders were hauling, the little ones bitumen from the marshes carried. As woodworkers the planks together hammered. Zisudra in a cauldron the bitumen melted. With bitumen the boat he waterproofed inside and out, as in the drawing upon the tablet. The boat on the 5th day was completed. Eager to see Zisudra depart, the townspeople to the boat food and water brought. From their own mouths sustenance they took. To appease Enlil they were in a hurry. 4-legged animals into the boat were also driven. Birds from the field by themselves flew in. Into the boat Zisudra his spouse and sons made embark. Their wives and children also came. Any who to the abode of the Lord Enki wish to go, let them too aboard come. So did Zisudra to the gathered people announce. Envisioning Enlil's abundance, only some of the craftsmen the call heeded. On the 6th day, Ninagal, lord of the great waters, to the boat came. A son of Enki he was. To be the boat's navigator he was selected. A box of cedar wood in his hands he held. By his side in the boat he kept it. The life essences and life eggs of living creatures it contains, by the Lord Enki. And Ninmah collected from the wrath of Enlil to be hidden, to life resurrect if earth be willing. So did Ninagal to Zisudra explain. Thus were all beasts by their twos in the boat hidden. Now Ninagal and Zisudra in the boat the arrival of the 7th day awaited. In the 120th Shar was the deluge awaited. In the 10th Shar, in the life age of Zisudra, was the deluge forthcoming. In the station of the constellation of the Lion was the avalanche looming. Now this is the account of the deluge that over the earth swept, and how the Annunaki escaped, and how Zisudra in the boat survived. 4 days before the day of the deluge the earth was rumbling, grown as with pain it did, for nights before the calamity struck, in the heavens Nibiru as a glowing star was seen, then there was darkness in daytime, and at night the moon as though by a monster was swallowed. The earth began to shake by a net force before unknown it was agitated. In the glow of dawn a black cloud arose from the horizon, the morning's light to darkness changed, as though by death's shadow, veiled. Then the sound of a rolling thunder boomed, lightnings the skies lit up. Depart, depart. Utu to the Annunaki gave the signal. Crouched in the boats of heaven, the Annunaki heavenward were lofted. In Shurubak, 18 leagues away, the bright eruptions by Ninagal were seen. Button up the hatch! Ninagal to Zisudra shouted. Together the trapdoor that the hatch concealed they pulled down watertight and closed completely. Was the boat inside not a ray of light? Penetrated. On that day, on that unforgettable day, the deluge with a roar began. In the white land at the earth's bottom the earth's foundations were, shaking then with a roar to 1,000 thunders equal. Off its foundations the ice sheet, slipped by Nibiru's unseen net force, it was pulled away into the South Sea crashing. One sheet of ice into another ice sheet was smashing. The white land's surface like a broken eggshell was crumbling. All at once a tidal wave arose. The very skies was the wall of waters reaching. A storm, its ferocity never before seen, at the earth's bottom began to howl. Its winds the wall of water were driving. The tidal wave northward was spreading. Northward was the wall of waters on rushing. The Absu lands it was reaching. Therefrom toward the settled lands it traveled, the Eden it overwhelmed. When the tidal wave, the wall of water, Shurubak reached, the boat of Zisudra, the tidal wave from its moorings lifted, tossed it about. Like a watery abyss the boat is swallowed. Though completely submerged, the boat held firm, not a drop of water into it did enter. Outside the storm's wave the people overtook like a killing battle. No one his fellow man could see. The ground vanished, there was only water. All that once on the ground stood by the mighty waters away was swept. Before day's end the watery wall gathering speed, the mountains overwhelmed. In their celestial boats the Annunaki, the earth, were circling, crowding the compartments. Against the outer walls they crouched. What was happening upon the earth down below to see they strained. From the celestial boat in which she was, Ninmah like a woman in travail cried out, my created like drowned dragonflies in a pond the waters fill. All life by the rolling sea wave away was taken. Thus did Ninmah cry and moan. Inanna, who was with her, also cried and lamented. Everything down below, all that lived, has turned into clay. Thus did Ninmah and Inanna weep. They wept and eased their feelings. In the other celestial boats the Annunaki by the sight of unbridled fury were humbled. A power greater than theirs they with all those days witnessed. For the fruits of earth they hungered, for fermented elixir they thirsted. The olden days, alas, to clay have turned. So to each other the Annunaki said, after the immense tidal wave that over the earth swept, the sluices of heaven opened, a downpour from the skies upon the earth was unleashed. For 7 days the waters from above with the waters of the great below were mingled. Then the wall of water, its limits reaching, its onslaught ceased. But the rains from the skies for 40 more days and nights continued. From their perches the Annunaki looked down. Where there were dry lands, now was a sea of water. And where mountains once to the heavens their peaks raised, their tops now like islands were in the waters, and all that on the dry lands was living in the avalanche of waters perished. Then, as in the beginning, the waters to their basins were gathered, waving back and forth. Day by day the water level came lower. Then, 40 days after the deluge over the earth swept, the rains also stopped. After the 40 days Zisudra the boat's hatch opened, his whereabouts too. Survey, a bright day it was, a gentle breeze was blowing, all alone, with no other sign of life, the boat upon a vast sea was lolling. Mankind, all living things off the earth's face are wiped out. No one except us few survive, but there is no dry land to set a foot upon. So did Zisudra to his kinfolk say, as he sat down and lamented. At that time Ninagal by Enki appointed, the boat toward the twin peaks of Arata directed, a sail for her he shaped, toward the mount of salvation he the boat guided. Impatient Zusudra was. Birds that were on board he released to check for dry land, for surviving vegetation to verify he sent them. He sent forth a swallow, he sent forth a raven, both to the boat returned. He sent forth a dove, with a twig from a tree to the boat it returned. Now Zusudra knew that the dry land from under the waters had emerged. A few more days and the boat by rocks was arrested. The deluge is over. At the mount of salvation we are. So did Ninagal too, Zusudra say. Opening the watertight hatch from the boat, Zusudra emerged. The sky was clear, the sun was shining, a gentle wind was blowing. Hurriedly upon his spouse and children he to come out called. The Lord Enki let us praise, to him thanks give. To them Zusudra said, with his son's stones he gathered, with them an altar he built, then a fire on the altar he lit, with aromatic incense he made a fire. A ewe lamb, one without blemish, for a sacrifice he selected, and upon the altar to Enki the ewe lamb as a sacrifice he offered. At that time, Enlil from his celestial boat to Enki words conveyed, let us in whirlwinds from the celestial boats upon the peak of Arata descend the situation to review what to be done to determine, while the others in their celestial boats the earth to circuit continued. Enlil and Enki in whirlwinds upon the peak of Arata descended. Smiling, the two brothers met, with joy their arms they locked. Then Enlil by the whiffs of fire and roasting meat was puzzled. What is that? To his brother he shouted. Has anyone the deluge survived? Let us go and see. Meekly to him Enki responded. In their whirlwinds to the other peak of Arata they flew over. The boat of Zusudra they saw. By the altar that he had built they landed. When Enlil the survivors saw Ninagal among them, his fury no bounds had. Every earthling had to perish. He with fury shouted. At Enki with anger he lunged to kill his brother. With his bare hands he was ready. He is no mere mortal, my son, he is. Enki to Zusudra pointing cried out. For a moment Enlil was hesitating. You broke your oath. At Enki he shouted. To a reed wall I spoke, not to Zusudra. Enki said. Then to Enlil the dream, vision related. By Ninagal alerted, Ninurta and Ninmah in their whirlwinds also. Touched down when the account of events they heard, Ninurta and Ninmah by the account were not angered. The survival of mankind, the will of the Creator of all must be. So did Ninurta to his father say. Ninmah her necklace of crystals, a gift of Anu, touched and swore, on my oath, the annihilation of mankind shall never be repeated. Relenting, Enlil by the hands Zusudra and Imzara his spouse took, and blessed them thus, be fruitful and multiply, and the earth replenish. Thus were the olden times ended. Now this is the account of how survival on earth was restored, and how a new source of gold and other earthlings beyond the oceans were found. It was after the encounter at Arata that the waters of the deluge to recede continued, and the face of the earth gradually from under the waters was showing. The mountain lands were mostly unscathed, but the valleys under mud and silt were buried. From the celestial boats and from the whirlwinds, the Annunaki, the landscape surveyed all that in the olden times in the Aden and the Abzu had existed under thee. Mud was buried. Eridu, Nibruki, Shurbak, Sippa, all were gone, completely vanished, but in the Cedar Mountains the great stone platform in the sunlight glistened. The landing place, in the olden times established, was still standing. One after another the whirlwinds upon the platform landed. The platform was intact. At the launch corner the huge stone blocks held firm. Clearing debris and tree branches away, the first to land to the chariots signaled. One after the other the celestial chariots came. Upon the platform they touched down. Then to Marduk on Lamu and Nanar on the moon words were sent. And they too to earth returned. Upon the landing place they came down. Now the Annunaki and Ijiji, who were thus gathered by Enlil to assembly, were called. The deluge we have survived, but the earth is devastated. So did Enlil to them say, All ways to recover we must assess, be it on earth, be it elsewhere. Lahmu, by the passage of Nibiru, was devastated. So did Marduk relate. Its atmosphere was sucked out, its waters thereafter evaporated, a place of dust storms it is. The moon by itself life cannot sustain, only with eagle masses staying enabled. So did Nanar to the other's account give, and then words of Enamar he added, once there, that it was Tiamat's host leader one must recall. Of earth a companion it is, with it earth's destiny is connected. Lovingly Enlil on his son's shoulders his arm put. With survival now we are concerned. So did Enlil to Nanar mildly retort, now sustenance is our first concern. Let us the sealed creation chamber examine, perchance Nibiru's seeds we shall still find. So did Enlil to Enki say of the grains once created him reminding, at the side of the platform, clearing some mud, the shaft from times remote. They found the stone that blocked it they lifted off, the sanctuary they entered. The diorite chests with seals were fastened, the seals with a copper key they made open. Inside the chests in crystal vessels, the seeds of Nibiru's grain were there. Once outside, to Ninurta and Lil the seeds gave. To him he was thus saying, go, the mountainside terrace, let the grains of Nibiru once again bread provide. In the cedar mountains, on other mountains too, Ninurta waterfalls dam, terraces constructed, the eldest son of Zisudra to raise crops he taught. To Ishkur his youngest, and Lil another task assigned, where the waters have receded, go and remaining fruit-bearing trees find. To him as fruit cultivator Zisudra's youngest son was assigned. The first fruit they found, the vine that by Ninmah was brought, it was of its juice. As the Annunnaki's elixir renowned, Zisudra took a sip. By one sip, then another and another, Zisudra was overpowered. Like a drunkard he fell asleep. Then a gift to Annunaki and earthlings Enki presented. The chest that Ninagal had carried he unveiled, its surprising contents to all. He announced the life essences and life eggs in the wombs of the four-legged animals from. Zisudra's boat can be combined, sheep for wool and meat will multiply, cattle for milk and hides will all have. Then with other living creatures the earth we shall replenish. To Dumuzi the shepherding task Enki gave, in the task was Zisudra's middle son assisting. Then to the dark-hued landmass where his and his son's domains had been, Enki his attention turned. With Ninagal at the confluence of mighty waters, the mountains he dammed, fierce waterfalls to a lake he channeled to let the waters as a lake accumulate. Then the lands between the Abzu and the great sea with Marduk he surveyed where habitations once were. The river's valley how to drain he considered. At midstream where the river's waters cascaded, an island from the waters he raised. In his bowels twin caverns he carved out, above them from stones sluices he fashioned. From there 2 channels in the rocks he cut, for the waters 2 narrows he fashioned. Thus the flowing waters from the highlands coming he could slow or let go. Faster with dams and sluices, and the 2 narrows the waters he regulated. From the cavern island, the island of Abu, the river's serpentine valley from. Under the waters he raised, in the land of the 2 narrows for Dumuzi and the shepherds a habitation, did Enki fashion. With satisfaction did Enlil all this to Nibiru words send, with words of. Concerning Nibiru responded, the close passage that earth and Lamu effected on Nibiru too much damage, caused the shield of gold dust was torn, the atmosphere was dwindling again, now new supplies of gold quickly were needed. Fervently to the Abzu Enki went, with Jibble his son to survey and search he journeyed. All the gold mines were gone, by the avalanche of water they were buried. In the Aden, Bad Tibira too no longer existed. In Sippar, a place for the chariots was no more. The hundreds of Annunaki who in the mines in Bad Tibira toiled from the earth were gone. The multitude of earthlings, as primitive workers serving by the deluge, were to clay turned. No gold can from earth anymore be provided. So did Enlil and Enki too. Nibiru announced, on earth and on Nibiru there was desperation. At that time Ninurta, his task in the mountains of cedars completed, to the mountain land beyond the oceans once again journeyed. From that land, on the other side of earth, astounding words he delivered. The avalanche of waters deep cuts into the mountainsides there tore. From the mountainsides uncounted gold, in nuggets large and small, to the rivers below fell down. Without mining can the gold be hauled? Enlil and Enki to the distant mountain land heard with amazement they the discovery viewed. Gold, pure gold, refining and smelting not requiring, all about was lying. A miracle it is. So was Enki to Enlil saying, what by Nibiru was wrought by Nibiru was amended. The unseen hand of the creator of all, it is life on Nibiru to enable. So did Enlil say, now who could collect the nuggets? How to Nibiru they will be sent? The leaders each other asked. Of the first question, Ninurta had the answer. In the high mountain land on this side of earth, some earthlings have survived. Descendants of Cain they are. With the handling of metals they are knowing. 4 brothers and 4 sisters are their leaders. On rafts they themselves. Saved. Now their mountaintop in the midst of a great lake is an island. As the protector of their forefathers they me recall. The great protector they call me. By the report that other earthlings had survived, the leaders were heartened. Even Enlil, who the end of all flesh planned, was no longer angered. It is the will of the creator of all. To each other they said, now let us a new place for celestial chariots establish, there from the gold to Nibiru send. For a new plain whose soil has dried and hardened they search. In the proximity of the landing place in a desolate peninsula such a plain they found. Flat as a quiet lake it was, by white mountains it was surrounded. Now this is the account of the new place of the celestial chariots, and the artifice twin mounts, and how the image of the lion by Marduk was usurped. In the peninsula by the Annunaki chosen, the heavenly ways of Anu and Enlil on earth were reflected. Let the new place of the chariots precisely on that boundary be located. Let the heart of the plain the heavens reflect. So did Enlil to Enki suggest. Once Enki to this agreed, Enlil from the skies of distances took measures on a tablet, a grand design for all to see he marked out. Let the landing place in the Cedar Mountains be a part of the facilities, he said. The distance between the landing place and the chariot place he measured. In the midst thereof a place for a new mission control center he designated. There a suitable mount he selected, the Mount of Way, showing he named it. A platform of stones, akin but smaller than the landing place to be built. There he ordered, in its midst a great rock was carved inside and out, to house a new bond. Heaven earth it was made, a new navel of the earth, the roll of Nibruki before the deluge to replace. The landing path on the twin peaks of Arata in the north were anchored to demarcate the landing corridor. Enlil 2 other sets of twin peaks required to delimit the landing corridor's boundary, ascent and descent to secure. In the southern part of the desolate peninsula, a place of mountains, twin adjoining peaks, Enlil selected. On them, the southern delimit, he anchored. Where the second set of twin peaks was required, mountains there were none, only a flat land above the water-clogged valley from the ground protruded. Artificial peaks thereon we can raise. So did Ningishida to the leaders say. On a tablet the image of smooth-sided, skyward rising peaks for them he drew. If it can be done, let it so be, Enlil with approval said. Let them also as beacons serve. On the flat land above the river's valley, Ningishida a scale model built, the rising angles and 4 smooth sides with it he perfected. Next to it a larger peak he placed. Its sides to earth's 4 corners he set. By the Annunaki with their tools of power were its stones cut and erected. Beside it in a precise location, the peak that was its twin he placed. With galleries and chambers for pulsating crystals he designed it. When this artful peak to the heavens rose, to place upon it the capstone, the leaders were invited. Of electrum and admixture by gibel fashion was the apex stone made. The sunlight to the horizon it reflected, by night like a pillar of fire it was, the power of all the crystals to the heavens in a beam it focused. When the artful works by Ningishida design were completed and ready, the Annunaki leaders, the great twin peak, entered. At what they saw they marveled. Eker, house which like a mountain is, they named it, a beacon to the heavens it was. That the Annunaki the deluge survived and prevailed forever it proclaimed. Now the new place of the celestial chariots gold from across the seas can receive. From it the chariots to Nibiru, the gold for survival shall carry. From it to the east, where the sun on the designated day rises, they will ascend to it. To the southwest, where the sun on the designated day sets, they will descend. Then Enlil, by his own hand, the Nibiru crystals activated. Inside eerie lights began to flicker. An enchanting hum the stillness broke. Outside the capstone all at once was shining. Brighter than the sun it was. The multitude of assembled Annunaki a great cry of joy uttered. Ninmah, by the occasion moved, a poem recited and sang, house that is like a mountain, house with a pointed peak, for heaven earth it is equipped, the handiwork of the Annunaki it is. House bright and dark, house of heaven and earth, for the celestial boats it was put together by the Annunaki built. House whose interior with a reddish light of heaven glows, a pulsating beam that far and high reaches it amidst lofty mountain of mountains, great and lofty fashion beyond the understanding of earthlings it is. House of equipment, lofty house of eternity, its foundation stones the waters touch, its great circumference in clay is set, house whose parts are skillfully together woven, the great ones who in the skies circle to a resting make descent, house that for the rocket ships is a landmark with unfathomable insides, by Anu himself is the Eku blessed. Thus did Ninmah at the celebration recite and sing. While the Annunaki their remarkable handiwork were celebrating, Enki to Enlil words of suggestion said, when in future days it will be asked, when and by whom has this marvel been fashioned? Let us beside the twin peaks a monument create, the age of the lion let it announce, the image of Ningishida, the peak's designer let its face be, let it precisely toward the place of the celestial chariots gaze, when, by whom, and the purpose let it to future generations reveal. So did Enki to Enlil suggest. To the words Enlil consented, and to Enki said, of the place of the celestial chariots, Utu must again the commander be, let the gazing lion, precisely eastward facing, with Ningishida's image be. When the work to cut and shape the lion from the bedrock was proceeding, Marduk to his father Enki words of agreement said, to dominate the whole earth to me did you promise, now command and glory to others are granted, without task or dominion I am left. In my erstwhile domain are the artifice mounts situated, on the lion the image mine must be. By these words of Marduk, Ningishida was angered, the other sons were. Also annoyed by the clamor for domains, Ninurta and his brothers were also aroused, lands for themselves and devoted earthlings. Everyone was demanding, let not the celebration a contest become. Ninmah amidst the raised voices shouted, the earth is still in havoc. We Annunaki are few, of the earthlings there are only survivors. Let Marduk Ningishida of the honor not deprive. Let us Marduk's words also heed. So did Ninmah the peacemaker to the contending leaders say, for peace to prevail, the habitable lands between us should be apart set, Enlil to Enki said. To make the peninsula an uncontested divider, they agreed to the peacemaker. Ninmah they had allotted Tilmun, land of the missiles they named it, to earthlings it was beyond bounds. The habitable lands to the east thereof to Enlil and his offspring were set. apart for the descendants of 2 sons of Zisudra, Shem and Japhet therein too, dwell the dark-hued landmass that the Abzu included to Enki and his clan was for. Domains granted, the people of Zisudra's middle son, Ham, to inhabit it were chosen, to make Marduk their lord, of their lands the master, Enki to appease his son. Suggested, by your wish let it so be. Enlil to Enki about it said, in Tilmun, in its mountainous south, an abode for Ninmah his mother Ninurta. Built near a spring with date trees, a verdant valley it was located, the mountain peak Ninurta terraced, a fragrant garden for Ninmah planted. When all was thus completed, a signal to all outposts on earth was given. From the mountain lands across the ocean, whirlwinds the gold nuggets. Brought from the place of the celestial chariots to Nibiru, the gold was lofted. On that memorable day, Enlil and Enki to each other said and agreed, let us Ninmah the peacemaker with a new epithet name, honor, Ninharsag, mistress of the mountain head, let us name her. By acclamation was Ninmah the honor given, henceforth Ninharsag she was called. Praise to Ninharsag on earth the peacemaker, in unison the Annunaki proclaimed. The 11th tablet. Synopsis of the 11th tablet. The spaceport's land Tilmun is declared a neutral zone. It is granted to Ninmah, who is renamed Ninharsag. Marduk gets the dark lands, the Enlilites the olden lands. Marduk's grandsons quarrel. Satu murders Asar, impregnating herself. Asar's wife Asta bears Horanin. Aerial battles over Tilmun. Horan vanquishes Satu. The Enlilites deem it prudent to prepare another spaceport. Enki's son Dumuzi and Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter, fall in love. Fearing the consequences, Marduk causes Dumuzi's death, seeking his body. Inanna is put to death, then resurrected. Inanna launches a war to seize and punish Marduk. The Enlilites break into his hideaway in the Great Mount. They seal the uppermost chamber to entomb Marduk alive. Marduk's wife Sapanit and his son Nabu plead for his life. Ningishida, knowing the Mount's secrets, reaches Marduk. Marduk, his life spared, goes into exile. Enki and Enlil divide the earth among their other sons. The triumph of Ninurta and the Great Pyramids. Praise to Ninharsag, on earth the peacemaker, in unison the Annunaki proclaim. Praise to Ninharsag, on earth the peacemaker, in unison the Annunaki proclaimed. During the first Shah after the deluge, Ninharsag, to cool down tempers, managed Nibiru with gold to resupply, was over ambitions and rivalries paramount. Slowly the earth to teem with life returned, with the seeds of life by Enki, preserved what by itself survived was augmented on land and in the air and waters. Most precious of all, the Anunnaki discovered were mankind's own remnants. As in bygone days when the primitive workers were created, the Anunnaki, few and strained, for civilized workers now clamored. By the time the first Shah after the deluge was completed, the peaceful truce by an unexpected occurrence was shattered, not between Marduk and Ninurta, not between the Enki and Enlil clans, was the eruption between Marduk's own sons by the Igigi abetted. Was tranquility broken when Marduk and Sapanit and their sons and daughters on Lamu the deluge outweighted the 2 sons, Asar and Satu, to the daughters of Shamgaz, the Igigi leader a liking took. When to earth they all returned, the 2 brothers, the 2 sisters espoused. Asar, the one called Asta, chose. Satu, the one called Nebat, betrothed. Asar with his father Marduk in the dark-hued lands to abide chose. Satu near the landing place where the Igigi dwelt, with Shamgaz his dwelling made. About the domains on earth was Shamgaz concerned. Where shall the Igigi the masters be? So did Shamgaz the other Igigi in sight of that Nebat to Satu daily spoke, by staying with his father. Asar the successor alone shall be the fertile lands. he will inherit. So did Shamgaz and his daughter Nebat to Satu day after day say, how the succession in the hands of Satu alone to retain father and daughter schemed. On an auspicious day they made a banquet, Ijiji and Annunaki to it they invited. Asar, unsuspecting, to celebrate with his brother also came. Nebat, his spouse's sister, prepared the tables. Footstools she also set. She beautified herself with lyre in hand. A song to mighty Asar she sang. Satu before him choice roast meat cut, with salted knife for him fatlings he served. Shamgaz in a large goblet new wine to Asar offered, an admixture for him he made, a large vessel mighty to look upon, with elixired wine he gave him. In good humor was Asar, merrily he arose and sang, with cymbals in his hand. He chanted, then by the admixtured wine he was overcome. To the ground he fell down. Let us for a sound sleep take him. The host to the others at the banquet said. They Asar to another chamber carried. In a coffin they him laid. The coffin with tight seals they closed. Into the sea they threw it. When word of what had happened, Asta reached to Marduk, her husband's father, she raised a wailing. Asar to his death in the sea depths was brutally thrown. Quickly must the coffin be found. They searched the sea for Asar's coffin. By the shores of the dark-hued land it was found. Inside the stiff body of Asar lay. From its nostrils the breath of life departed. Marduk his clothes rent. On his forehead he put ashes. My son! My son! Sarpanet cried and wept. Great were her grief and mourning. Enki was distraught and wept. The curse of Ka-in is repeated to his son In. Agony, he said. Asta to high heavens a wailing raised. To Marduk for revenge and an heir on. Appeal she made. Satu his death must meet. By your own seed a successor. Let me conceive. Let by your name his name remembered be. The lineage surviving. This, alas, cannot be done. Enki to Marduk and Asta said, the brother who killed the brother's brother must be the keeper, for this Satu must be spared. By his seed and heir to Asar you must conceive. By these twists of fate Asta was baffled, distraught. The rules to defy she was determined. Before the body of Asar was wrapped, and in the shroud in a shrine preserved, from his phallus Asta the life seed of Asar extracted. With it Asta herself made conceive, an heir and avenger to Asar to be born. To Enki and his sons, to Marduk and his brothers, Satu word delivered, the sole heir and Marduk's successor am I, of the land of the two narrows. I will be the master. Before the Annunnaki's council, Asta the claim refuted, with Asar's heir I am, with child. Among the river's bulrushes with the child she hid, the wrath of Satu she was avoiding. Horon she called the boy, to be his father's avenger she raised him. Satu by this was disconcerted. Shamgaz from ambitions did not retreat. From earth year to earth year the Ijiji and their offspring from the landing place spread unto the borders of Tilmun, Ninharsag's sacred region, closer they moved. To overrun the place of the celestial chariots, the Ijiji and their earthlings threatened in the dark-hued lands the child Horan, by earth's quick life cycles to a hero. Grew, by his great-uncle Jibble was Horan adopted. By him was he trained and instructed. For him Jibble winged sandals for soaring fashion. To fly like a falcon he was able. For him Jibble a divine harpoon made. Its arrows bolts of missiles were. In the highlands of the south did him Jibble the arts of metals and smithing teach. The secret of a metal called iron Jibble to Horan revealed. From it weapons Horan made. From loyal earthlings an army he raised. To challenge Satu and the Ijiji northward. Across land and river they marched. When Horan and his earthlings' army the border of Tilmun, the land of the missiles, reached, Satu to Horan words of challenge sent. Between us two alone is the conflict. Let us one-on-one in contest meet. In the skies above Tilmun Satu, in his whirlwind for combat Horan awaited. When Horan toward him like a falcon skyward soared, a poisoned dart at him Satu shot, like a scorpion sting at Horan felled. When Asta saw a cry to heaven she sent forth, for Ningishida she cried out. From his celestial boat Ningishida came down to save the hero for his mother he came. With magic powers Ningishida the poison to benevolent blood converted. By morning was Horan healed, from the dead was he returned. Then with a fiery pillar like a heavenly fish with fins and a fiery tail, Ningishida to Horan provided. Its eyes from blue to red to blue their colors changed. Toward the triumphant Satu Horan in the fiery pillar soared. Far and wide each other they chased, fierce and deadly was the battle. At first Horan's fiery pillar was hit, then with his harpoon Horan Satu smote. To the ground Satu crashing down came, by Horan in tethers he was bound. When before the council Horan with his captive uncle came, they saw that he was blinded, his testicles squashed, like a discarded jar he stood. Let Satu, blind and airless, live. So did Asta to the council say, to end his days as a mortal among the Ejiji. The council his fate determined. Triumphant was Horan declared, the throne of his father to inherit. On a metal tablet was the council's decision inscribed. In the hall of records they placed it. In his abode Marduk with the decision was pleased. By what had happened he was sorrowed, though Horan a son of Asari's son was. From Shamgaz the Ejiji he was descended, a domain, one as among the Annunaki allocated to him was not given. Having lost both sons in each other, Marduk and Sarpanit solace sought. In time to them another son was born, Nabu, prophecy bearer they named him. Now this is the account of why in the far away a new chariot's place was built, and the love of Dumuzi and Inanna that Marduk by Dumuzi's death disrupted. It was after the contesting of Horan and Satu and their aerial battle over, till moon that Enlil his 3 sons to a council summoned. With concern to them of what was happening, he said, in the beginning the earthlings in our image, and after our likeness we made. Now the Annunaki offspring in the image and likeness of the earthlings became. Then it was Ka, and who his brother killed. Now a son of Marduk is his brother's killer. For the first time ever an Annunaki offspring from earthlings and army raised weapons from a metal of the Annunaki, a secret in their hands he placed. From the days when by Alalu and Anzu our legitimacy was challenged, disruption and rule-breaking by the Ejiji continued. Now the beacon peaks in the domain of Marduk are located. The landing place by the Ejiji is held. Now toward the place of the chariots the Ejiji are advancing in the name of Satu to all the heaven-earth facilities they claim will lay. So did Enlil to his 3 sons say, to take counter steps to them he proposed. An alternative heaven-earth facility in secret established. We must let it in Ninurta's land beyond the oceans, in the midst of trusted earthlings come to be. Thus was the secret mission in the hands of Ninurta entrusted. In the mountain lands beyond the oceans, beside the great lake, a new bond heaven-earth he was setting up. Within an enclosure he placed it. At the foot of the mountains where the gold nuggets were scattered, a plain with firm ground he chose. On it for ascent and descent markings he made. Primitive are the facilities, but the purpose they will serve. So did Ninurta to his father Enlil in good time declare. From there gold shipments to Nibiru can continue. From there need we too can ascend. At that time, what as a blessed event began as a horrible occurrence ended. At that time, Dumuzi, Enki's youngest son, to Inanna, Nana's daughter, a liking took. Inanna, Enlil's granddaughter, by the Lord of Herding was captivated. A love that knows no bounds engulfed them, a passion their hearts inflamed. Many of the love songs that for a long time thereafter were sung, Inanna and Dumuzi were the first to sing them. By song their love they recounted to Dumuzi his youngest son, Enki, a large domain above the Abzu-allotted Meluha, the Black Land was its name. Highland trees there grew, its waters abundant were. Large bulls among its river reeds roamed. Greatly numbered were its cattle. Silver from its mountains came. Its copper bright as gold was a glitter. Greatly beloved was Dumuzi. By Enki after the death of Asar he was favored. Of his youngest brother Marduk was jealous. Inanna by her parents, Nanar, and Ningal was beloved. Enlil by her cradle sat. Beautiful beyond describing she was, in martial arts with Annunaki heroes. She competed of journeys in the heavens and of celestial boats from her brother Utu. Learned a sky ship of her own to roam in earth's skies. To her the Annunaki presented. After the deluge, on the landing platform, Dumuzi and Inanna, their eyes on each other set. At the dedication of the artifice mounts was between them a warm encounter. Hesitant at first they were, he of Enki's clan, she of Enlil and offspring. When Ninhasak for peace the disputing clans together brought Inanna and Dumuzi away from the others to be together managed love to each other they professed. As they went strolling together, sweet words of alluring love to each other, they said. Side by side they lay down, one heart with the other heart chatted. Around her waist Dumuzi put his arm like a wild bull to take her he wished. Let me teach you, let me teach you. To Inanna Dumuzi said. Gently she kissed him, then to him of her mother she spoke. What fib could I tell my mother? What words will you tell Ningal? Let us of our love my mother tell. Of joy cedar perfume she will on us. Sprinkle to the dwelling place of Ningal, Inanna's mother. The lovers went. To them Ningal her blessing gave. Of Dumuzi the mother of Inanna approved. Lord Dumuzi, as a son-in-law of Nanar you are worthy. To him she said. Dumuzi as bridegroom by Nanar himself was welcomed, Inanna's brother. Utu, let it so be, said. Perchance the espousing peace between the clans truly will bring. Enlil too, them all said. When of the love and betrothal Dumuzi to his father and brother spoke, Enki of peace through espousal also was thinking. His blessing to Dumuzi he gave. Dumuzi's brothers, all except Marduk, about the espousal were joyful. A betrothal bed of gold by Jibal was fashioned, Nergal blue-hued lapis, stone scent, sweet dates, a fruit by Inanna favored. Beside the bed they in a pile placed, under the fruits the beads of lapis they hid for Inanna to discover. As the custom was, to perfume and clothe Inanna, a sister of Dumuzi was. Sent, Geshtinanna, a sister-in-law to be, was her name. To her Inanna what was in her heart revealed, of her future with Dumuzi too. Her she said, a vision of a great nation I have, as a great Annunaki Dumuzi there will rise. His name over others shall be exalted, his queen's spouse I shall be. Princely status we will share, rebellious countries we shall together subdue. To Dumuzi I will status give, the country I will rightly direct. Inanna's visions of rulership and glory by Geshtinanna to her brother Marduk were reported. By Inanna's ambitions Marduk was greatly disturbed. To Geshtinanna a secret plan he told. To her brother Dumuzi, to the herder's dwelling, Geshtinanna went, lovely to behold and perfumed. To her brother Dumuzi thus she said, before with your young wife in your embrace, with you will sleep a legitimate heir, by a sister born you must have. Inanna's son to succession shall not be entitled, on your mother's knees he will not be raised. She put his hand in her hand, she pressed her body against his body. My brother, with you I will lie down, bridegroom, with you a peer of Enki we shall have. So did Geshtinanna to Dumuzi whisper, a noble issue from her womb to have. Into her womb Dumuzi poured the semen, by her caressing he fell asleep. During the night Dumuzi had a dream, a premonition of death he envisioned. In the dream 7 evil bandits he saw coming into his dwelling. The master has sent us for you, son of Dutta. To him they said they chased away his ewes, his lambs and kids they drove away, the headdress of lordship they took off his head, the royal robe off his body. They tore the staff of shepherding they took and broke, his cup from its peg they threw down, naked and barefooted they seized him, in fetters they his hands bound, in the name of the princely bird and the falcon they left him dying. Disturbed and startled, Dumuzi in the middle of the night awoke too. Geshtinana the dream he told. The dream is not favorable, Geshtinana to the distraught Dumuzi said. Marduk of raping me will accuse you. Evil emissaries to arrest you he will send, to try you and disgrace you he will order, the liaison with an Enlilite too. Disunite. As a wounded beast Dumuzi a cry roared out, Betrayal! Betrayal! He shouted. To Utu Inanna's brother, help me. Word he sent, the name of his father Enki. As a talisman he uttered, through the desert of Emush, the snake's desert, Dumuzi rushed to escape. To the place of mighty waterfalls from the evildoers he ran to hide. Where the gushing waters, the rocks, the slippery smoothness made, Dumuzi slipped and fell, the onrushing waters his lifeless body in a white froth swept away. Now this is the account of Inanna's descent to the lower Abzu and the great Annunaki war, and how Marduk in the Echo alive was, imprisoned. When the lifeless body of Dumuzi from the Great Lakes waters by Ninagal was retrieved to the abode of Nergal and Ereshkigal in the lower Abzu, the body was brought. On a stone slab was the dead body of Dumuzi, a son of Enki, placed. When of what had happened word to Enki was sent, Enki rent his clothes. On his forehead he put ashes. My son! My son! For Dumuzi he lamented, what have I sinned to be so? Punished? Out loud he asked, when I to earth from Nibiru came, Ea, he whose home is waters, was my name. With waters did the celestial chariots obtain their thrust power. In waters I splashed down. Then by an avalanche of waters the earth was swept over. In waters did Asar, my grandchild, drown. By waters my beloved Dumuzi is now dead. Everything I had done for righteous purpose did I do it. Why am I punished? Why has fate against me turned? So did Enki bewail and lament. When from Geshtinana the veracity of occurrences was discovered, greater was Enki's agony. Now Marduk, my firstborn, for his deed will also suffer. By the disappearance and death of Dumuzi was Inanna worried, then grieved. Then to the lower Abzu she hurried, Dumuzi's body for burial to retrieve. When Ereshkigal, her sister, of the arrival of Inanna at the precinct's gates was told, Ereshkigal a devious scheme on the part of Inanna suspected. At each of the 7 gates, one of Inanna's accoutrements and weapons was. From her removed, then, unclothed and powerless before Ereshkigal's throne of scheming and error by Nergal, Dumuzi's brother, she was accused. Trembling with fury, Ereshkigal to her sister's explanations would not listen. Let loose against her the 60 diseases. Ereshkigal her vizier Namtar in anger ordered. By the disappearance of Inanna in the lower Abzu were her parents much. Worried, Nanar to Enlil and the matter went. Enlil to Enki a message sent. From Nergal his son, Ereshkigal's spouse, Enki what had happened learned. From clay of the Abzu Enki to emissaries fashion, beings without blood. By death raised unharmed, to the lower Abzu he sent them, Inanna to bring back whether alive or dead. When before Ereshkigal they came, Ereshkigal by their appearance was puzzled. Are you Annunaki? Are you earthlings? With bewilderment she asked them, Namtar the magical weapons of power against them directed, but unharmed. The two were, to the lifeless body of Inanna he took them, hanging from a stake she was. Upon the corpse the clay emissaries a pulsar and an emitter directed. Then the water of life on her they sprinkled, in her mouth the plant of life they placed. Then Inanna stirred, her eyes she opened, from the dead Inanna arose. when the two emissaries, Inanna to the upper world, were ready to return. Inanna, the lifeless body of Dumuzi, to take along them ordered. At the 7 gates of the lower Abzu, to Inanna her accoutrements and attributes were returned. To the abode of Dumuzi in the Black Land, the lover of her youth, to take the emissary she ordered, there to wash him with pure water, with sweet oil him anoint, then to clothe him in a red shroud, upon a slab of lapis lay him, then in the rocks for him a rest place carve out, the day of arising there too await. As for herself, to the abode of Enki, Inanna set her steps. Retribution for her beloved's death she wanted, the death of Marduk, the culprit she demanded. There has been death enough, Enki to her said. Marduk an instigator was, but murder he committed not. When Inanna learned that Marduk would not by Enki be punished, Inanna too, her parents and brother, went. To high heaven she a wailing raised, justice, revenge, death to Marduk. She cried for. At Enlil's abode his sons Inanna and Utu joined, for a council of war they gathered. Ninurta, whom the rebel Anzu defeated, for strong measures argued, of secret words between Marduk and the Ajiji exchange, Utu to them reported. Of Marduk, an evil serpent, earth must be rid. Enlil with them agreed, when the demand for Marduk's surrender to Enki his father was sent. Enki to his abode Marduk and all the other sons summoned. Though for my beloved Dumuzi I am still grieving, Marduk's rights I must defend. Though evil did Marduk instigate, by ill fate, not by Marduk's hand did. Dumuzi die, Marduk is my firstborn, Ninki is his mother, for succession he is destined, from death by Ninurta's gang, by us all he must be protected. So did Enki. Say, only Jibal and Ninagal their father's call heeded, Ningishita was opposed, Nergal was hesitant, only if in mortal danger he will be will I help, he said. It was after that that a war of ferocity unknown between the two clans erupted. Unlike the contending of Horon and Satu of earthlings descended, it was a battle between Annunaki, Nibiruan born among them on another planet, was loose. By Inanna was the warfare begun. In her skyship to the domains of Enki's son she crossed over. Marduk to battle she challenged. To the domains of Ninagal and Jibal she him pursued, to assist her Ninurta from his storm bird, withering beams at the enemies, strongholds shot, Ishkur from the skies with scorching lightnings and smashing thunders, attacked, and the Abzu from the river's fish he washed away, cattle in the fields he dispersed. To the north, the place of the artifice mounts, Marduk then retreated, pursuing him, Ninurta on the habitations, poison-bearing missiles rained. His weapon that tears apart the people in those lands robbed of their senses, the canals that the river's waters bore, red from blood became, Ishkur's brilliances the night's darkness into flaming days converted. As the devastating battles northward advanced, Marduk in the Eker himself, ensconced, Jibal for it an unseen shield devised, Nergal to heaven its all-seeing eye, raised with a weapon of brilliance by a horn directed, Inanna the hiding place, attacked Horon to defend his grandfather came, by her brilliance was his right eye damaged, while Utu, the Ijiji and their horde of earthlings beyond Tilmun held off. At the foot of the artifice mounts Annunaki, this and that clan supporting, in battle clashed. Let Marduk surrender, let the bloodshed end. So did Enlil to Enki words. Convey, let brother talk to brother. To Enki Ninharsag a message sent. In his hideout within the Ekur, Marduk his pursuers to defy continued. Within the house which like a mountain is his final stand he made. Inanna the massive stone structure could not surmount. Its smooth sides her weapons deflected. Then Ninurta the secret entrance learned. The swivel stone on the north side he found. Through a dark corridor Ninurta passed, The grand gallery he reached, its vault by the many-hued emissions of the crystals like a rainbow was. Glitter. Inside, by the intrusion alerted, Marduk with ready weapons, Ninurta awaited, with weapons responding, smashing the wonder crystals. Ninurta up the gallery kept going, into the upper chamber, the place of the great pulsating stone. Marduk retreated. At its entrance, Marduk, the sliding stone locks lowered from one and all. Admission they barred. Into the Ekur, Inanna, and Ishkur Ninurta followed. What next to do they contemplated. Let the encased hiding chamber be Marduk's stone coffin. To them Ishkur said, to 3 blocking stones ready for down-gliding, Ishkur their attention drew. Let slow death by alive being buried be Marduk's sentence. Inanna her consent gave. At the end of the gallery, the blocking stones let loose. Each one of them 1 stone for plugging slid down, Marduk as in a tomb too. Seal. Now this is the account of how Marduk was saved and to exile departed, and how the Ekur was dismantled and lordship over the lands rearranged. Away from the sun and light, without food or water, Marduk within the Ekur, alive was entombed. By his imprisonment and punishment, without trial, Sapanit, his spouse, wailing raised. To Enki, her father-in-law, she hurried with the young son Nabu. To him she came, to be among the living. Marduk must be returned. To Enki, Sapanit said, he sent her to Utu and Nannar, who with Inanna can intercede. Wearing a garment of atonement, to the Lord Marduk give life, she pleaded. Let him humbly life continue, rulership he will lay aside. Appeased was not Inanna. For the death of my beloved, the instigator must die, Inanna retorted. Ninharsag, the peacemaker, the brothers Enki and Enlil summoned. Punishment to Marduk must come. Death is not warranted. To them she said, let Marduk in exile live, the succession on earth to Ninurta submit. Enlil by her words was pleased and smiled. Ninurta was his son of Ninurta. She was the mother. If between succession and life the choice is, what can I, a father, say? So did Enki with heavy heart answer. In my lands widespread is the desolation, warfare must end. For Dumuzi I am still in mourning. Let Marduk live in exile. If peace is to be returned and Marduk shall live, binding arrangements must be made. Enlil to Enki said, all facilities that heaven and earth bond to my hands alone must be entrusted. The mastery over the land of the 2 Narrows to another son of yours you must give. The Ijiji who Marduk follow, the landing place, must give up and abandon to a land of no return, by no descendant of Zisudra inhabited must. Marduk in exile go. So did Enlil forcefully declare to be foremost among the brothers he meant. The hand of fate Enki in his heart acknowledged, let it so be. With bowed head he said, Ningishida alone the Ekur innards knows, let him over its land the master be. After the decisions by the great Annunaki were announced, Ningishida for the rescue they summoned. How Marduk from the blocked and sealed innards to extricate was his challenge, to let free the one who alive is buried, a task beyond conceiving to him they gave. Ningishida the Ekur's secret designs contemplated, how to circumvent the blockings he planned. Through a chiseled upper opening, Marduk will be rescued. To the leaders he said, at a place which I will show them, a doorway in the stones they will cut. From it upward, a twisting passageway, they shall bore a rescue shaft. Creating, through hidden hollowings to the Ekur's midst, they will continue. At the vortex of the hollowings, through the stones, they will break through. A doorway to the insides they will blow open, thereby the blockings, circumventing. Up the grand gallery they will continue, the 3 stone bars they will raise, the uppermost chamber, Marduk's death prison they will reach. Annunaki by Ningishida guided, his outline plan then followed. With tools that cracked the stones, the opening they made, the rescue shaft they fashioned, The insides of the artifice mount they reached, an exit they blew open, circumventing the 3 blocking stones. The uppermost chamber they reached. On a small platform, the portcullises they raised. Marduk fainted, they rescued. Carefully through the twisting shaft they the Lord lowered. To fresh air they him brought. Outside Sarpanit and Nabu's spouse and father were awaiting. A joyful reunion it was, when to Marduk his father Enki the terms of release conveyed. Marduk was enraged. I would rather die than my birthright forfeit, he shouted. Sarpanit into his arms Nabu thrust. We are part of your future, she softly said. Marduk was angered, Marduk was humbled. To fate I yield, he inaudibly said. With Sarpanit and Nabu to a land of no return he departed. To a place where horned beasts are hunted, with wife and son he went. After Marduk had departed, Ninurta the Ekur through the shaft re-entered. Through a horizontal corridor to the Ekur's vulva he went. In its east wall, in a niche artfully fashioned, the destiny stone, a red radiance, was emitting. Its power to kill me grabs, with a killing tracking at me seizes. Ninurta inside the chamber cried, take it away, to obliteration destroy it. To his lieutenants Ninurta shouted, retracing his steps through the grand gallery to the topmost chamber. Ninurta went. In a hollowed-out chest, the heart of the Ekur pulsated, its net force by 5. Compartments was enhanced. With his baton, Ninurta the stone chest struck with a resonating sound. It responded. Its gugstone, that directions determined, Ninurta ordered to be taken out, to a place of his choice carried. Coming down the grand gallery, Ninurta the 27 pairs of Nibiru crystals examined. Many in his fight with Marduk were damaged, some the struggle intact survived. To remove the whole ones from their grooves, Ninurta ordered the others. With his beam he pulverized. Outside the house, which like a mountain is Ninurta in his black bird, soared. To the apex stone his attention he turned, his enemy's epitome it represented. With his weapons he shook it loose. To the ground in pieces it toppled. By this the fear of Marduk is forever ended, Ninurta victorious declared. On the battleground the assembled Annunaki, the praise of Ninurta, announced, like Anu you are made. To their hero and leader they shouted, to replace the incapacitated beacon a mount near the place of the celestial. Chariots was chosen. Within its innards the salvaged crystals were rearranged. Upon its peak the gugstone, the stone of directing, was installed. Mount Mashu, mount of the supreme celestial bark, the mount was called. At that time Enlil his 3 sons summoned. Ninlil and Ninharsag also attended. Commands over olden lands to confirm, lordships over new lands to assign. They met. To Ninurta, who Anzu and Marduk had vanquished, the Enlilship powers were granted in all the lands his father's surrogate to be. Of the landing place in the Cedar Mountains, lordship to Ishkur was granted. To his domain northward thereof was the landing place joined. The lands south and east thereof, where the Ijiji and their offspring had spread, to Nanar as an everlasting endowment were given by his descendants and followers to keep and to hold. The peninsula wherein the place of the chariots was, in Nanar's lands was, included. Utu as commander of the place and of the navel of the earth was confirmed. In the land of the 2 narrows, as agreed, Enki to Ningishida the lordship did assign. To that none of Enki's other sons objected. To that Inanna was opposed. To the heritage of Dumuzi, her deceased bridegroom, did Inanna claim lay, a dominion of her own, she of Enki and Enlil demanded. How Inanna's demands to satisfy the leaders contemplated about the lands and the peoples, the great Annunaki, who the fates decree. Counsel took regarding the earth and its resettling, words with Anu they exchanged. From the time of the deluge, the great calamity, almost 2 shars have passed. The earthlings have proliferated. From mountain lands to dried lowlands they went. Of civilized mankind by Zusudra there were descendants with Annunaki. Seed they were intermixed, offspring of Ijiji who intermarried roamed about. In the distant lands, Kain's kinfolk survived. Few and lofty were the Annunaki who from Nibiru had come. Few were their perfect descendants. How settlements for themselves and for earthlings to establish the great. Annunaki considered how over mankind lofty to remain, how to make the many the few obey and serve. About all that, about the future, the leaders with Anu words exchanged. To come to earth one more time, Anu decided with unto his spouse he wished to come. The 12th tablet, synopsis of the 12th tablet. The soil dries, plains and river valleys are resettled. Plentiful gold comes from the lands beyond the seas. Anu and his spouse Antu arrive for a memorable visit, reminiscing the leaders realize they are destiny's pawns. They allocate 3 regions of civilization to mankind. Pardoned by the departing Anu, Marduk remains rebellious. The first region and space facilities are Enlilite lands. Man's first civilization begins in the first region, Sumer. Marduk usurps a site to build an illicit launch tower. Frustrated by the Enlilites, Marduk seizes the second region. He deposes and exiles Ningishidothoth to distant lands. He declares himself Ra, supreme god. In a new religion, he introduces pharaonic reigns to mark a new civilization. Enlil assigns his son Ishkur to protect the metal sources. Inanna is granted dominion in the third region, Indus Valley. The gods grant kingship. Wars begin. To come to earth one more time, Anu decided with unto his spouse he wished to come. While his arrival they awaited, the Anunnaki abodes in the Eden to re-establish. Began from the mountain lands where descendants of Shem dwelt to the olden land. The black-headed people migrated upon the newly dried soil. The Anunnaki let them settle, food for all to provide. Where Eridu, Enki's first city before the deluge, had stood on top of the myriads of mud and silt, a new Eridu was marked out. In its center, upon a raised platform, an abode for Enki and Ninki was built, house of the Lord, whose return is triumphant it was called, with gold and silver and precious metals by Enki's sons provided it was. Adorned, above in a circle skyward pointing, the 12 constellations by their signs were marked out. Below, as in the Abzu, waters with swimming fishes flowed. In a sanctuary, a place that no uninvited can enter, Enki the May formulas kept. For Enlil and Ninlil, a new Nebru key atop the mud and silt was established. Amid its people's dwellings and cattle folds and stalls, a sacred precinct was. Walled off, an abode for Enlil and Ninlil therein was built. In 7 stages it arose, a stairway rising as to heaven. To the topmost platform led. His tablets of destinies did Enlil there keep. With his weapons it was. Protected, the lifted eye that scans the lands, the lifted beam that penetrates all. In the courtyard, in its own enclosure, Enlil's fast-stepping skybird was kept. As the time for the arrival of Anu and Antu neared, for their stay in the Eden, a new place was selected, neither Enlil's nor Enki's. To be Unuki, the delightful place it was named. Shade trees in it were planted. A pure white structure, the house of Anu, in its midst was built. Its exterior in 7 stages rose. Its interior like a king's quarters was. When the celestial chariot of Anu at earth arrived, Anunnaki skyships toured. It soared for a safe landing at the place of the chariots. In Tilmun it was guided. Utu, the place's commander, his great-grandparents to planet Earth, welcomed the 3 children of Anu, Enlil, and Enki and Ninharsag, stood there to greet them. They embraced and kissed, they laughed and cried, so long has the separation been. They to each other kept saying, at each other they looked, aging to examine, though greater in Shars were the parents, younger than the children they looked. The 2 sons looked old and bearded. Ninharsag, once a beauty, was bent and wrinkled. All 5 of them with tears were filled. Tears of joy with sorrow tears were mingled In sky ships were the guests and their hosts, to the Aden taken. In a prepared place beside Annunaki, the sky ships landed. All the Annunaki that on earth had stayed as an honor guard were standing. Hail and welcome, hail and welcome. In unison to Anu and Antu they were shouting. Then in a procession singing and music playing, the Annunaki to the house of Anu the guests accompanied. In the house of Anu, Anu washed and rested. Then he was perfumed and clothed. Antu by female Annunaki to the house of the golden bed was escorted. There she too washed and rested. Then she was perfumed and clothed. In the open courtyard as an evening breeze, the tree leaves rustled. Anu and Antu on thrones were seated. Flanking them were Enlil and Enki, and in Harsak, attendants, earthlings who were completely naked, wine and good oil served. Others, in a corner of the courtyard, a bull and a ram, gifts of Enlil and Enki, on a fire were roasting. A great banquet was for Anu and Antu prepared, for the sign in the heavens its start was awaiting. On Enlil's instructions Zumul, who in matters of stars and planets was learned, the steps of the house of Anu ascended, the rising of the planets at eventime, to announce. On the first step Kishar in the eastern skies appeared, Lahamu on the second step was seen, Mumu on the third step was announced, Anshar by the fourth step rose, Lamu on the fifth step was seen, the moon from the sixth step was announced. Then on a signal from Zumul, the hymn, the planet of Anu in the skies rises, began to be sung, for from the topmost step, the seventh, the red hallowed Nibiru into view came. To music the Annunaki clapped and danced, to music they danced and sang, to the one who grows bright, the heavenly planet of the Lord Anu, they sang. On the signal a bonfire was lit, seen from place to place were the bonfires. Started before the night was over, the whole land of Eden was with bonfires lit. After a meal of bull meat and ram meat, of fish and fowl with wine and beer, accompanied Anu and Antu to their overnight quarters were accompanied by Anu and Antu were all the Annunaki thanked. For several earth days and nights Anu and Antu slept. On the sixth day his 2 sons and daughter Anu summoned. Of what had on earth transpired their accounts he heard, of the peace and the warfare he learned, of how the earthlings, by the oath of Enlil to be wiped off, had again proliferated. Anu heard of the gold discovery in the land beyond the oceans and the chariot's place. There Enlil to him revealed. It was then that of the dream and the tablet from Galzu Enki to his father told. By that was Anu greatly puzzled. A secret emissary by that name to earth by me was never sent. So did Anu to the 3 leaders say. Puzzled were Enki and Enlil. Baffled they at each other looked. On account of Galzuzu Sudra and the seed of life were saved, Enki said. On account of Galzu on earth we remained, Enlil to his father said. The day to Nibiru you return you shall die. So did Galzu to us say. Incredulous of that was Anu. The change of cycles indeed havoc did cause, but with elixirs cured it was, whose emissary, if not yours, was Galzu. Enki and Enlil in unison said, Who the earthlings to save wanted, who on earth made us stay? Ninharsag her head slowly nodded, for the creator of all did Galzu appear. Was the creation of the earthlings also destined? Of that I must wonder. For a while the 4 of them were silent, each one past events in his heart recounted, while fates we decreed, the hand of destiny every step directed. So did Anu say, the will of the creator of all is clear to see, on earth and for earthlings, only emissaries we are. The earth to the earthlings belongs, to preserve and advance them we were intended. If that is our mission here, let us accordingly act. So did Enki say, the great Annunaki, who the fates decree councils exchanged regarding the lands, to create civilized regions, the great Annunaki decided, therein knowledge too. Mankind provide cities of men to establish, therein in sacred precincts abodes for the Annunaki create, kingship as on Nibiru on earth establish, crown and scepter to a chosen man. Give by him the word of the Annunaki to the people, convey work and dexterity too. Enforce in the sacred precincts a priesthood to establish the Annunaki as lofty lords, to serve and worship, secret knowledge to be taught, civilization to mankind convey, to create 4 regions, 3 for mankind, 1 restricted, the Annunaki. Resolve the first region in the olden Eden land to establish for Enlil and his sons to dominate the second region in the land of the 2 narrows thereafter to follow for Enki and his sons to lord the third region, with the other 2 not mingling in a distant land to Inanna. Grant the 4th region for the Annunaki alone consecrated. The peninsula of the place of the chariots will be. Now this is the account of Anu's journey to the lands beyond the oceans, and how in the first region for the Annunaki cities were re-established. Having the decision about the 4 regions and mankind civilizations made, Anu about his grandson Marduk inquired, I must see him again. To the leaders Anu said, whether by Dumuzi and Ningishida to Nibiru inviting, Marduk's I myself have caused. So did Anu wonder to reconsider the punishment of Marduk. He wished, when to the lands beyond the oceans you journey, Marduk to meet you will. Be told, the land where he roams, in those parts of the earth it is. So did Enlil to Anu. Say, before for the distant lands the royal couple went, the Eden and its lands Anu. And Antu surveyed, Eridu and Nibruki they visited, where the cities of the first region were. Plan they saw. In Eridu Enlil about Enki complained, the me formulas to himself Enki is, keeping Anu on the seat of honor seated. Words of praise to Enki said, my son for himself a magnificent house, built beautifully on a platform it is, raised to the people that the house surround and serve. Great knowledge will Enki give now, the knowledge that in the Emmys is secreted with other Anunnaki must be shared. Embarrassed was Enki to share with all the divine formulas to Anu. He promised in the ensuing days in skyships traveling Anu and onto the other regions. Surveyed. Then on the 17th day to Annunaki the royal couple returned for one more night of rest. In the morrow when the younger Annunaki before Anu and Antu for blessing came, Anu to his great-granddaughter Inanna took a liking. He drew her closely, he hugged and kissed her. Let all my words heed. To the congregated he announced, this place after we leave to Inanna as a dowry is given. Let the sky ship in which we the earth shall survey to Inanna my present be. Joyed Inanna to dance and sing began, her praises of Anu as hymns in times. To come were chanted. Thereafter, bidding farewells to the Annunaki, for the lands beyond the oceans Anu and Antu departed. Enlil and Enki, Ninurta and Ishkur with them to the golden land went. To impress Anu the king with the great golden riches, Ninurta an abode for. Anu and Antu built its stone blocks to perfection cut, with pure gold inside were covered. A golden enclosure with flowers of carnelian stones carved the royal couple. Awaited by the shore of the great mountain lake was the abode erected. How the gold nuggets are collected the visitors were shown. There is gold here enough for many shars to come. Anu satisfied said, to a place nearby Ninurta to Anu and Antu an artifice mound showed, how to a place for melting and refining metals it was made. Ninurta explained how a new metal from stones was extracted. He showed them Anak, Annunaki made, he called it, how by combining it with the abundant copper, a strong metal he invented. He showed them on the great lake from whose shores the metals came. Anu and Antu sailed, the lake of Anak Anu called it. Henceforth this was its name. Then from lands from the north, lands where great horned beasts are hunted, Marduk before his father Enki and his grandfather Anu came Nabu his son. With him was, when Enki about Sarpanit inquired, Marduk with sorrow of her death them told. Now Nabu alone with me has remained. To his father and grandfather Marduk said, Anu Marduk to his chest pressed, Enough you have been punished. To him he said with his right hand on Marduk's head, Anu Marduk to be forgiven blessed. From the golden place high in the mountains, all who had gathered to the plain below went. There, stretching to the horizon, Ninurta a new place for the chariots has prepared. Anu and Antu's celestial chariot stood there ready, with gold to the brim it was loaded. As the time for departing came, Anu to his children words of goodbye and guidance said, Whatever destiny for the earth and the earthlings intended, let it so be. If man, not Annunaki, to inherit the earth is destined, let us destiny help. Give mankind knowledge up to a measure secrets of heaven and earth them. Teach laws of justice and righteousness, teach them. Then depart and leave. So did Anu to his children fatherly instructions give. Once more they hugged, embraced, and kissed, and from the new chariots. Place Anu and Antu for Nibiru left. The first to break the sorrow silence was Marduk. With anger were his words. What is this new place of celestial chariots? Of the others an explanation he demanded. What after my exile without my knowledge has transpired? When Enki of the decisions about the 4 regions to Marduk told, Marduk's fury knew no bounds. Why will Inanna a cause of Dumuzi's death her own region get? The decisions have been made, they cannot be altered. So did Enlil too, Marduk say. In separate skyships to the Eden and its adjoining lands they returned, sensing trouble, and Lil Ishkur to stay behind, instructed over the gold watch to keep. To commemorate Anu's visit, a new count of time passage was introduced. By earth years, not by Nibiru shars, was what on earth transpired to be. Counted in the age of the bull, to Enlil dedicated was the count of earth years begun. When to the Eden the leaders returned, the place of the first civilized region, how to make bricks from mud, the Anunnaki, the earthlings taught therewith cities to build. But where once cities of the Anunnaki alone had stood, cities for both them and earthlings now arose therein, and in new cities for the great Anunnaki sacred precincts were consecrated. Therein the Anunnaki with lofty abodes were provided, temples by mankind. They were called therein the Anunnaki, as lofty lords were served and worshipped. By number ranks were they honored, the heirship to mankind made known. Anu the heavenly, the rank of 60 held. To Enlil the 50 rank was given. On Ninurta his foremost son did Enlil the same rank bestow. Next in succession was the Lord Enki, the rank of 40 he held. To Nannar, the son of Enlil and Ninlil, the rank of 30 was assigned. To his son and successor Utu, the rank of 20 was allotted. 10 as a number rank to the other Anunnaki leaders' sons was granted. Ranks by the 5s between the female Anunnaki and spouses were shared. When after Eridu and Nibruki and their temple abodes were completed, in Lagash the Girsu precinct for Ninurta was built. His black skybird there was kept. Eninu house of 50 was the temple abode for Ninurta and Bao his spouse, called the Supreme Hunter and the Supreme Smiter, weapons a gift of Anu, the Eninu protected. Where Sipar before the deluge had been, on top of the mud soil Utu, Anu, Sipar established. In the Ababar, the shining house, an abode for Utu and his spouse Aya was raised. From there Utu for mankind laws of justice promulgated. Where because of silt mud the olden plans could not be followed, new sites were chosen. Adab, a site from Shurubak not distant, for Ninharsag as a new center was made. The house of succor and healing knowledge was her temple abode therein. Named the emis of how the earthlings were fashioned, Ninharsag in its holy shrine kept. For Nannar, a city with straight streets, canals, and wharves was provided. Urim was its name. House of the throne's seed was its temple abode, called the moon's beams. To the lands it reflected. Ishkur to the mountain lands of the north returned. The house of 7 storms. His abode was called Inanna. In Annunaki resided. In the abode by Anu bequeathed to her she dwelt. Marduk and Nabu in Eridu dwelt. In the aiding their own abodes they did not have. Now this is the account of the first city of men and of kingship on earth, and how Marduk to build a tower schemed, and wherefore Inanna the Emies stole. In the first region, in the lands of Aden, and in the cities with precincts, by their Annunaki lords, the earthlings' handiworks and crafts were taught. Before long were the fields irrigated, on canal and river boats soon sailed, the sheepfolds and granaries were overflowing, prosperity the land filled. Kiengi, land of the lofty watchers, the first region was called. Then to let the black-headed people, a city of their own, possess it was. Decided, Kishi, scepter city it was called. In Kishi did the kingship of man begin. Therein, in consecrated soil, Anu and Enlil, the heavenly bright object, implanted. In it Ninurta, the first king appointed, mighty man was his royal title. To make it a center for civilized mankind, Ninurta to Eridu journeyed, the me tablets that for kingship divine formulas hold from Enki to obtain. Properly attired with respect Ninurta Eridu entered, for the me of kingship he asked, Enki, the Lord who all the me safeguards, 50 me to Ninurta granted. In Kishi were the black-headed people with numbers to calculate taught, heavenly Nisaba writing them taught, heavenly Ninkashi beer making them showed. In Kishi, by Ninurta guided, kiln work and smithing proliferated, wheel wagons to male asses harnessed craftily in Kishi first were fashioned. Laws of justice and righteous behavior in Kishi were promulgated. It was in Kishi that the people hymns of praise to Ninurta composed. Of his heroic deeds and victories they sang, of his awe-inspiring black bird. They chanted how in faraway lands the bisons he subdued, how the white metal to mix with copper he found. Ninurta's glorious time it was, with the constellation of the archer he was honored. All the while Inanna and Annunaki, her lordship in the third region, awaited. All the while the domain of her own, of the leaders she demanded. The third region after the second one will come. Her leaders thus assured her, having seen how Ninurta to Eridu journeyed, how the me of kingship he obtained. Inanna in her heart a plan devised, to obtain me from Enki she schemed. Her chambermaid Ninshubur to Eridu she dispatched, a visit by Inanna to announce. On this hearing Enki to Isimud, his housemaster, quickly instructions gave. The maiden all alone to my city Eridu, her step is directing. When all alone she will arrive, my inner chambers let her enter. Pour for her cold water to freshen her heart. Barley cakes with butter give her. Sweet wine prepare. The beer vessels to the rim fill up. When Inanna alone the abode of Enki entered, Isimud Enki's commands followed. Then, when Enki Inanna greeted, by Inanna's beauty he was overwhelmed. With jewelry was Inanna bedecked. By her thin dress her body she revealed. When she bent down, her vulva by Enki was thoroughly admired. From the wine cup sweet wine they drank. For beer drinking a competition they had. Show me the emies, Inanna, to Enki playfully said. Let me in my hand. Hold! 7 times in the course of the competition Enki to Inanna me's to hold. Gave the divine formulas for lordship and kingship, for priesthood and scribeship, for love dressing and for warring me's to Inanna. Enki to hold gave for music and singing, woodworking and metals and precious stones. 94 me's that for civilized kingdoms are needed Enki to Inanna. Gave. Holding her prizes tightly, Inanna from the slumbering Enki slipped away. To a boat of heaven she rushed out. To soar away her pilot she instructed. When Enki from his slumber by Isimud was awakened, get hold of Inanna. To Isimud he said, when from Isamud that Inanna had already in her boat of heaven departed. Enki heard to chase Inanna in Enki's skyship Isamud he instructed. All the Mies you must retrieve. To him he said, at the approach to Annunaki Isamud Inanna's boat of heaven intercepted, to return to Eridu, and the wrath of Enki face he made her. But when Inanna back to Eridu was brought, the Mies with her no more. Word to her chambermaid Ninshubur she gave them to the house of Anu in. Annunaki Ninshubur took them. In the name of my power, in the name of my father Anu, I command you the Mies to return. So did Enki angrily to Inanna say, in his abode captive he held her. When of this Enlil heard, to Eridu to face his brother he came. By right the Mies have I obtained, Enki himself in my hand placed them. So did Inanna to Enlil say, the truth of that Enki meekly admitted. When the time term of Kishi shall be completed, to Annunaki kingship shall pass. So did Enlil declare. When Marduk all this did hear, greatly he was enraged, his anger no bounds. Nu, enough has my humiliation been. To his father Enki Marduk shouted. A sacred city of his own in the Eden from Enlil he forthwith demanded. When Enlil to Marduk's appeal no heed paid, Marduk fate in his own hands grasped to a place that for Anu's arrival before Annunaki was selected was considered. Nabu the Ijiji and their offspring from their dispersal lands summoned for Marduk therein a sacred city, a place for skyships to establish. When his followers at the place assembled, stones to build what they found, not Marduk, how to make bricks and burn them by fire, to serve as stone to them. He showed there with a tower whose head the heavens can reach they were building. To thwart the plan Enlil to the place hurried, to placate Marduk with soothing words he tried to stop Marduk and Nabu in their endeavor. Enlil did not succeed. In Mibruki Enlil his sons and grandchildren assembled. What to do they all considered. Marduk an unpermitted gateway to heaven is building, to earthlings it he is, and trusting. So did Enlil to his sons and grandchildren say, if this we allow to happen, no other matter of mankind shall be unreached. This evil plan must be stopped, Ninurta said, all with that agreed. It was nighttime when from Nibruki the Enlilite Annunaki came, from their skyships havoc upon the rising tower. Fire and brimstones they rained to the tower and the whole encampment. A complete end they made, to scatter abroad the leader and his followers. Enlil thereupon decided, henceforth their counsels to confuse, their unity to shatter. Enlil decreed, until now all the earthlings one language had, in a single tongue they speak. Henceforth their language I shall confound, that they each other's speech will not understand. In the 310th year since the count of earth years began did all this happen. In each region and every land the people a different tongue he made to speak. A different form of writing thereafter to each was given, that one the other will not comprehend. 23 kings did in Kishi reign, for 408 years was it. The scepter city, it was also in Kishi that a beloved king, Etana, for a heavenly journey was taken. At the allotted time let kingship to Annunaki be transferred. So did Enlil decree. To its soil the heavenly bright object from Kishi was transferred. When the decision to the people was announced, to Inanna an exaltation, him they sang, Lady of the Mies, Queen, brightly resplendent, righteous, in radiance clothed, of heaven and earth, beloved, by the love of Anu consecrated, great adorations wearing, 7 times the Mies she obtained, in her hand she them is holding. For the tiara of kingship they are appropriate, for high priesthood suitable, lady of the great Mies, of them she is the guardian. In the 409th year after the count of earth years began, kingship of the first region to Annunaki was transferred. Its first king was the high priest of the Eanna temple abode, a son of Utuhe was. As for Marduk, To the land of the two narrows he went, to be the master of the second region. Once established, he expected. Now this is the account of how the second and third regions were established, and how Ningishida was exiled, and Annunaki threatened, when Marduk, after a long absence to the land of the two narrows, returned Ningishida as its master. He there found its lofty lord Ningishida was, with the aid of offspring of Annunaki, who earthlings espoused, did Ningishida the lands oversee. What Marduk had once planned and instructed by Ningishida was overturned. What is it that happened? Marduk of Ningishida to know demanded. Of the destruction of hidden things Marduk Ningishida accused, of making Haran to a desert place depart, a place that has no water, a boundless place where sexual pleasures are not enjoyed. The two brothers an uproar made, upon quarreling bitterly they embarked. Pay heed, I am here in my proper place, Marduk to Ningishida said. You have been my place taker, from now on only a deputy of mine you can be. But if to rebellion you are inclined, to another land go away you must. For 350 earth years did the brothers in the land of the two narrows quarrel. For 350 years was the land in chaos between the brothers. It was split. Then Enki, their father, to Ningishida, said, for the sake of peace to other lands depart. To go to a land beyond the oceans Ningishida chose, with a band of followers thereto he went. 650 earth years was at that time the count. But in the new domain, where Ningishida the winged serpent was called, a new count of its own began. In the land of the two narrows, the second region under Marduk's lordship was established. In the annals of the first region, Magan, land of the cascading river, it was called. But by the second region's people, when languages were confounded, Hemta, the dark brown land, it was henceforth called. Nidaru, guardian watchers, the Annunaki were there in the new language. Called Marduk as Ra, the bright one, was worshipped. Enki as Ptah, the developer, was venerated. Ningishida as Tehuti, the divine measurer, was recalled. To erase his memory, Ra on the stone lion, his image with that of his son. Asar replaced. To count by tens, not by 60, Ra the people made, the year he also by tens. Divided the watching of the moon by the watching of the sun he replaced, whereas under the lordship of Tehuti, the olden city of the north and city of the south were reestablished. Marduk, Ra the two lands of the north and of the south into one crown city. United, a king, an offspring of Nidaru, an earthling, he there appointed. Mina was his name, where the two lands meet and the great river divides, a scepter city Ra. Established. Splendor to surpass Kishi in the first region he gave it, Mena Nefer, Menas. Beauty it was called. To honor his elders Ra, a holy city built. To honor Nibiru's king Anuhe. Named it therein on a platform, a temple abode for his father Enki he erected, its head within a high tower, like a sharp rocket skyward rose. In its shrine Ra, the upper part of his celestial barge deposited, the Bin. It was called. It was the one in which from the planet of countless years he had traveled. On the day of the new year, the king as high priest, the ceremonies performed on that day only alone. The innermost star room he entered, before the bin offerings he put, to benefit the second region. Pita Ta'ara all manner of means gave. What do I know that you do not know? The father his son asked. Then all manner of knowledge except that of the dead reviving to Ra he gave. As a great one of the 12 celestials, Ptah to Ra the constellation sign of. The ram allotted, the water flow of Hapi, the land's great river, Ptah for Ra and his people. Regulated, abundance in the fertile soils quickly came, man and cattle proliferated. By the success of the second region, the leaders were encouraged. The third region to establish they proceeded, to make it a domain of Inanna as she was promised they decreed. as befits the mistress of a region, a celestial constellation to her was, a sign beforehand with her brother Utu, the station of the twins she shared henceforth as a gift from Ninharsag, her constellation of the maiden too. Inanna was allotted in the 860th year according to the earth year count was. Inanna so honored, far away in the eastern lands, beyond 7 mountain ranges, was the third. Region, Zamush, land of 60 precious stones, was its highland realm called. Arata, the wooded realm, was in the valley of a meandering great river. Located in the great plain did the people cultivate crops of grains and horned cattle. Herd, there two cities with mud bricks they built, with granaries they were, filled, as by Enlil's decree required, the Lord Enki, Lord of wisdom, for the third region a changed tongue devised, a new kind of writing sign. He for it fashioned a tongue of man heretofore unknown, for Arata Enki in his wisdom created, but the emis of civilized kingdoms for the third region Enki did not give. Let Inanna what for Annunaki had obtained with the new region share. So did Enki declare, and Arata Inanna a shepherd chief appointed, akin to her beloved Dumuzi he was, in her skyship from Annunaki to Arata Inanna journeyed over mountains and valleys she flew, the precious stones of Zamush she cherished, pure lapis lazuli with her too, Annunaki she carried. At that time the king in Annunaki was Enmerkar, the second one to reign. Therein he was, it was he who the boundaries of Annunaki expanded. By its glories was Inanna, exalted. It was he who the wealth of Arata coveted, to be over Arata supreme he, schemed. To Arata Enmerkar an emissary dispatched as a tribute Arata's riches to, demand, over 7 mountain ranges, through parched lands and then soaked by rains. The emissary to Arata went to the king of Arata the demand words of Enmerkar, word for word he repeated. His language the king of Arata to understand was unable, like the bray of a donkey. Its sound was a wooden scepter inscribed with a message the king of Arata to the emissary gave. To share Annunaki's emis with Arata the king's message requested. As a royal gift to Annunaki grains on donkeys were loaded with the emissary. To Annunaki they went. When Enmerkar the inscribed scepter received its message in Annunaki number 1 understood, he brought it forth from light to shade, he brought it forth from shade to light. What kind of wood is this, he asked. Then to plant it in the garden he ordered. After 5 years, after 10 years had passed, from the scepter a tree grew. A tree of shade it was. What shall I do? Enmerkar in frustration his grandfather Utu asked. With heavenly Nisaba, the mistress of scribes and writing, Utu interceded. On a clay tablet, his message to inscribe Nisaba and Enmerkar taught in the tongue of Arata. It was by the hand of his son Banda was the message delivered, submission or war, it said. By Inanna Arata was not abandoned. To Annunaki Arata will not submit. The king of Arata said, if warfare Annunaki desires, let one warrior in combat meet. Better yet, let us peacefully treasures exchange. Let Annunaki its means for Arata's riches give. On the way back, carrying the peace message, Banda fell sick. His spirit left him. His comrades raised his neck. Without the breath of life it was. On Mount Huram, on the way from Arata to his death was Banda. Abandoned. The riches of Arata Annunaki did not receive. The emis of Annunaki Arata did not obtain in the third region. Civilized mankind did not fully blossom. The 13th tablet. Synopsis of the 13th tablet. Royal city sprout with sacred precincts for the gods, demigods serve as kings and priests in palaces and temples. Marduk promises his royal followers an eternal afterlife. In Sumer, Inanna encourages belief in resurrection, celestial omens, and foretelling oracles gain followings. Marduk proclaims the coming age of the ram as his sign. Ningishita builds stone observatories to show otherwise Insurrections, wars, and invasions destabilize Enlilite lands. The mystery emissary appears to Enlil, foretells a calamity, instructs Enlil to select a worthy man to lead survival. Enlil chooses Ibram, scion of priestly royal family. Armies raised by Nabu attempt to seize the spaceport, overruling Enki. The gods resort to weapons of terror. Ninurta and Nergal obliterate the spaceport and sinking cities. The drifting nuclear cloud brings death to all in Sumer, god of the mounts and the chosen man. In the third region, civilized mankind did not fully blossom. What to Inanna was entrusted she neglected, other domains not to her. Granted in her heart she coveted. When from Annunaki, at the count of 1,000 years, kingship away was taken, who the calamity by the end of the next millennium could foresee, who the disaster would have prevented, that in less than a third of one shar a calamity unknown would befall, who could foretell? By Inanna was the bitter end started. Marduk as Ra with destiny tangled. Ninurta and Nergal the unspeakable end with their own hands delivered. Why was Inanna with her granted domain not satisfied? Why to Marduk did unforgiving she remain? Journeying between Annunaki and Arata, Inanna restless and ungratified was. For her beloved Dumuzi she still mourned. Her love's desire unquenched remained. When she flew about in the sun rays, Dumuzi's image she saw shimmering and beckoning. In the nighttime in dream visions he appeared. I will return, he was saying, the glories of his domain in the land of the two narrows to her he was promising. In the sacred precinct of Annunaki, a house for nighttime pleasure she established to the Skigunu young heroes on the night of their weddings. With sweet words she lured, long life, a blissful future to them she promised. That her lover Dumuzi was, she imagined, each one in the morning in her bed was found dead. It was at that time that the hero Banda, left for dead, alive to Annunaki, returned by the grace of Utu, of whose seed he was, did Banda from the dead return. A miracle, excited Inanna shouted. My beloved Dumuzi to me came back. In her abode Banda was bathed, with a sash, a fringed cloak on him was fastened. Dumuzi, my beloved, she called him. To her bed with flowers bedecked she lured him. When in the morning Banda was alive with joy, Inanna shouted, the power of not dying in my hands was placed. Immortality by me is granted. Then to call herself a goddess, Inanna decided. The power of immortality it implied. Nanar and Ningal, Inanna's parents, by her proclamation were not pleased. Enlil and Ninurta, by Inanna's words, were disconcerted. Utu, her brother, was bemused. The dead to revive is not possible, Enki and Ninharsak to each other said. In the lands of Ki-Angi, the people their good fortune praise. The gods are among us, death they can abolish. So to each other the people said. On the throne of Annunaki Banda, his father Emekar succeeded. Lugal, great man his title was. The goddess Ninsun of Enlil's seed took him to be her spouse. The hero Gilgamesh, their son, on the throne of Annunaki Lugal Banda, followed. As the years passed and Gilgamesh older grew, of life and death to his mother Ninsun he spoke about the death of his forebears. Though of Annunaki descended he wondered, do gods die? His mother he asked. Shall I too, though 2/3 divine as a mortal over the wall climb? So too, her he said, as long as on earth you abide, the death of an earthling will you overwhelm? Ninsun to her son said, but if to Nibiru you will be taken, long life thereon you will attain. To take Gilgamesh aloft to Nibiru journey, Ninsun to Utu the commander appealed. Endlessly Ninsun to Utu appealed. Day after day with him she pleaded, let Gilgamesh to the landing place go. Utu in the end agreed. To guide and protect him, Ninharsak a double of Gilgamesh fashioned. Enkidu, as by Enki created, was he called. Of a womb he was not born. Blood in his veins was not. With the comrade Enkidu Gilgamesh to the landing place journeyed Utu. With oracles his progress oversaw. At the entrance to the cedar forest its fire-belching monster their way. Blocked with trickery, they the monster confused, to pieces it they broke. When the secret entrance to the tunnels of the Annunaki they found, by the bull of heaven, a creature of Enlil, with deathly snorts they were, challenged. To the gates of Annunaki the monster them chased, at the city's ramparts by, Enkidu it was smitten. When Enlil this heard, with agony he cried, in the heavens of Anu was his, wailing heard, for in his heart Enlil well knew, bad indeed was the omen, for having the bull of heaven slain, to perish in waters, Enkidu was punished. Gilgamesh, having by Ninsun and Utu been instructed of the slaying, was absolved. Still the long life of Nibiru seeking, Gilgamesh to proceed to the place of the chariots by Utu was permitted. After many adventures the land of Tilmun, the fourth region, he reached. Through its subterranean tunnels he proceeded. In a garden of precious stones Zusudra he met. The events of the deluge Zusudra to Gilgamesh related. The secret of long living to Gilgamesh he revealed. A plant in the garden's well was growing, Zusudra and his spouse from. Getting old it prevented, unique of all the plants on earth it was, by it a man full vigor can regain. Man at old age is young again. This is the plant's name, Zusudra too. Gilgamesh said, a gift of Enki, with Enlil's blessing on the mount of salvation to us was granted. When Zusudra and his spouse were asleep, Gilgamesh to his feet stones tied. Into the well he dived. The plant of being young again he grasped and uprooted. With the plant in his satchel through the tunnels he hurried to Annunaki. He made his way. When he tired and was asleep, a snake by the plant's fragrance was attracted. The plant did the snake snatch from the sleeping Gilgamesh. With the plant it vanished. In the morning, his loss discovering, Gilgamesh sat and wept. To Annunaki empty-handed he returned, as a mortal therein he died. 7 more kings in Annunaki after Gilgamesh reigned. Then its kingship to an end came. Precisely when the count of 1,000 earth years was completed, it was to Urim, the city of Nanar, and Ningal was kingship of the first region, transferred. To all these matters that in the other regions were occurring, Marduk much heed gave, by Inanna's dreams and visions, to Dumuzi's domain alluding. Ra was disturbed. To counteract Inanna's schemes of expansions, he was determined. In the matters of resurrection and immortality he found much to ponder. The thought of divine godship to him greatly appealed. To be a great god himself he announced. By what to Gilgamesh in good measure an earthling was permitted, Ra was angered, but a clever way wherewith the loyalty of kings and people to retain he deemed it. If demigods the gateway to immortality are shown, let this to the kings of my region apply. So did Marduk in the second region by the name Ra known to himself. Words say, let the kings of my region of Netero offspring be to Nibiru in an afterlife. Journey! So did Ra in his realm decree the kings how to build tombs facing eastward. He taught to the prescribes a long book he dictated, the afterlife journey in detail in. It was described how to reach the Duat, the place of the celestial boats. In the book was told how to there, by a stairway to heaven, to the imperishable planet journey, of the plant of life partake, the waters of youth to satiation drink, of the coming of the gods to earth by Ra, where the priest taught, gold is the splendor of life to them, he said. The flesh of the gods it is. To the kings Ra said, to make expeditions to the Absu and the lower domain, gold to obtain. The kings he instructed, when by the force of weapons the kings of Ra lands not theirs conquer. His brothers' realms he invaded. Their ire he caused to arise and grow. What is Marduk up to? The brothers each other asked. That over us he tramples. To their father Enki they appealed. To Pa his father Ra did not listen. To capture all adjoining lands the kings of Magan and Meluha Ra directed. To be the master of the 4 regions was his heart's plan. The earth is mine to rule. So adamantly to his father he said, now this is the account of how Marduk Supreme himself declared in Babili, built